coming. I feel excited to be here, and I feel curious what's going to happen. And I feel a deep sense of trust because I'm up here with Jess. And what I mean is that when I'm with Jess, I don't need to have a game plan as much as I feel like I do when I'm by myself. Because not only do we have combined intelligence, but we have the capacity to go anywhere together.
Sorry.
And have the tools to be with it and be with each other and get value out of it. So that's what I'm in touch with in terms of setting out on a So that's what I'm in touch with as It's not what I'm in touch with anymore.
Yeah,
I'm in touch with the commotion. What are you in touch with?
I'm in touch with the time, and it's sort of a familiar experience in general. Being with you is like there seems like there's so little time and there's so much to talk about and be with, and that's one of our big just things that we navigate in general, and so that's true for me now. Part of me that wants to go and then like actually, right, there's nowhere to get, it's here.
I like sitting up here with you.
I don't know if I like it yet.
What might it be if not liking it?
I feel hot and I want these people to get something that they want. And I don't know yet how it's going. I don't have anything to bite on yet.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I have our little potential list here, so that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I think I'll say, I think I'll set a little context and maybe then. So the other thing I'm in touch with is why I wanted to do this. And mostly it's wanting to celebrate our connection and be witnessed in it and offer something of value from it to our community here and other people that are interested in circling. And I just forgot what else I was going to say.
So what are you aware of?
Like a gap where there were supposed to be words.
Like you had something and it disappeared.
Uh-huh.
And did something else come in?
Well, I was aware of Maggie I think Maggie's smiling. I can't see totally clearly from this far away, but think Maggie's smiling at me and I like that. And other people are not as smiling. And I'm kind of not. And I'm like, there's sort of a noticing, oh, she's smiling, which I like, and they're not smiling.
And how is that for you to notice that some aren't smiling and some are?
There's some fear that comes up that it won't be valuable for them, and that we won't do it well.
Yeah, so we both have named this.
Yeah.
That seems to be here.
You can take shares.
Okay.
That's potentially next.
Okay.
Okay. So,
I just want to pause for a minute.
Yeah.
There's value for me in the discomfort of like sitting here and not knowing. And I noticed that when you went to that place of we could take shares, there's this thing that we refer to sometimes as a leapfrog around like jumping to the next thing because that's the thing rather than being with what's here. And this is a lot more, in my experience, uncomfortable than I thought it was going to be so far. I'm just like, okay, so noticing there's discomfort here and letting that be. And that's something that we do a lot. We're very uncomfortable. And comfortable, but just like whatever's here is here.
I remembered what I was going to say.
And then,
Should I throw it in?
yeah.
Should I add something?
No, I wanted to say that I've known each of you, and both of you strictly in the context of circling and in circles that I've led. And I'm noticing as I sit here how that I just have this really, really deep trust of each of you and both of you, because I've kind of known you as a long-standing couple. And in fact, I think I've even witnessed sometimes when there was discord, not close up, but at a distance, I could see it energetically. And so I just have this really, really profound trust of whatever's going to emerge. And so I'm saying that because that's what I really feel, and I'm also noticing that I'm hoping that puts you even more at ease.
Mm.
And I'm wildly curious about how in your relationship that's built on these foundations, you deal with conflict, you deal with disconnection, connection, that daily flow of intimacy.
Yeah, thank you. We're intending to head there in the next 45 minutes to definitely get to that specific piece that you asked about. The other piece I wanted to name is that the other intention for me is that we have these weekends, we have these circles, we have a lot of intimacy with people who we don't live with, a lot of us. We don't plan our lives together with. There are some couples here, but there's not a lot of couples here. And so I have a great value in bringing the ways of being that we learn as a circler into this relationship. And I wanted to sort of plant a seed or accentuate the bridge from formal circling into our real life. And that theme has been spoken to a bunch in the weekend so far by various people. That's a strong value of mine too. So for me, that's
Can I jump in off of that?
please, yeah.
The value of like being in partnership, like there's nobody that triggers me like this guy. You know, so here we are at a circling weekend and we can go deep with people and people can be yelling at each other and there's intimacy and there's like core stuff that gets activated here, and then using what we know and what a lot of what we've learned here to actually navigate that stuff. It has been, it was here yesterday for me, you know. It's like every day.
Every day what?
I seem to be in some sort of trigger every day, and maybe that's not true, but there's challenge that we get to practice. It's like we always talk about how this is our curriculum for development, and it's in our face, in our faces, in my face. You seem to be a little more at ease, and there's challenge for you too.
Next one.
What was that?
I'm not sure actually. I think it was just more nerves.
I have a question, and I don't know, I just want to know, and I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but I'm curious, did you meet here? Were you both on your own journeys doing, and then you came together? Or did you meet somewhere else and then on this journey together? And that's important to me because I think of my own relationship with my partner, so I'm curious about that.
That was actually next. Just a minute or two of our history. Jess moved to Boulder 3 years ago, and at that point I was involved with Robert's Circling on the Corner. Robert had done his TCLT with a guy in Alexis out in California. He came back to Boulder. He said, I'm going to start people circling. So we were gathering every other week in his living room. This was before the center was open. So I was there. A mutual friend was going to these and brought Jess into this work.
And I had never been among people my age in a circle talking about their experience in the moment. And I saw Josh across from me in the circle, and he was just like sitting there with his legs up, and he was just like cool and slow and embodied, and I was looking at him, I was like, how do you get to be that way? So that was my first impression of him.
And how I got to be that way was that's how I can be when I'm in familiar settings. And when I'm up in front of people in new settings, I'm more anxious than most people. And then I was running a relationship group with a friend of mine, and Jess joined the group. And it was an 8-week group. I didn't like her at all. I thought she was like pouting and judging the entire thing.
Which I was.
And at one point she's like, my family thinks I'm the sunniest person. They always call me Sunshine or Sunny or something.
Sunflower girl.
Sunflower girl. And I remember going, I don't get that at all. To me, you seem like a sourpuss. Sourpuss. And it was a group where we were encouraged to give direct feedback like that. So then we spent a year and a half in community together. Jess went to Alethea, Jess went to T3. I was an assistant course leader in her T3 training. And then it was a year and a half ago that we came together more intimately and romantically. So we've been together for a year and a half. And so we do like intense relating together, and we don't claim that that's right for everybody. And we don't do it all the time. Like, we take a lot of space from each other as well. That's my need in particular, to have time of their own. And at the beginning, though, we spent 9 intense days basically with nobody else around us. We were at her place and at my place, but even in transit, like, we were in our little bubble, and we were together for 9 days, and we took the stuff that we had learned so far, and we're just constantly with each other. And there's three basic pieces that we wanted to hit on today around what the essentials are that we see. And one is slowing down, and one is speaking and revealing, and the other is listening and receiving. So,
And none of this is going to be new information, likely. You probably have heard it many times, and there's an application piece that the thing, like the practices that we do, that's the thing.
yeah, so it's not a new talk necessarily, it's more walking the talk, and it's more like claiming it's possible. Like a lot of people seem to be disillusioned with relationship, or at least monogamous relationship in this community, and for us at least, it's going really well. And we want to claim that it's possible, and like Jess was saying, the stakes are higher in a way because the trigger is more intense. You know, there's nobody that triggers most people like their intimate person who they get the most connected with, the most bonded with. And we hold that's part of our context, that is what we're here for, is to do that healing work together. And given that context being so explicit, we work towards welcoming, even looking forward to getting triggered.
And he's not going to save me.
And we know repeatedly that we work through that, again, using a lot of the tools that we practice here. So that first 9 days, I just want to tell you this quick story, was we had this intense experience that I've never had before, where we would just be, again, it's really slowed down, where we would have, and that's like the first essential from circling that I want to explicitly name or hit again. For me, the first principle of circling is slowing down. What's actually happening here? Let's slow down. And so we have a huge value in creating a lot of time in our relationship, a lot of space. You know, like scheduling open hours or even open days together without anything planned, any obligations. So we can, and again, that's not realistic for some people in terms of parenting or having full-time, normal hour jobs, which we don't. But so that first 9 days was a huge example of that, where we were just together and we would be super present with each other. And then I would start having this thing that I wanted to say to Jess. And it was like, it was a really vulnerable thing to say. And so there I was, sort of connecting to self and being in tune with, there's something big happening in me. And then I would reveal it to her and say, there's something big happening in me. I want to tell you something. And instead of her saying, tell me it, or me saying, okay, here it is, she was able to say, okay, but first, what's happening for you? And then I would say, I'm so nervous to say it. And then we were with me around the feelings and the fear. And then I would say, okay, I want to say it. And I would say one word of it. And then I would go back into the feelings about it. And then 2 words. And eventually I got the full sentence out. Maybe it took 15 minutes of feeling it and her being with me. And then I would say the thing. And for instance, one of them was, are you my woman for real? Or like, are you my woman for real for the rest of this life?
I just kind of felt that.
And when I finally, and getting to say it, getting all the way to saying it, I had shaked and felt a lot of fear. And then finally, when I said it, there was no more releasing happening. I was just able to say, are you my woman for real? My woman for real. And then she wasn't in the receiving space anymore. She was then having her own experience. So suddenly, as I got it out, then she would have a whole experience around what it was like to hear that. And she would be shaking or having feelings or crying. And we were with her in rounds. And then when that was complete, she would have a line in her mind come. And we went back and forth like this for days. And I've never had that kind of experience. I've never heard of that. So much somatic release. And it was all through this connection to self, what's actually happening, being willing to reveal it very slowly, having somebody who's curious and interested and with me, and kind of taking turns like that. So that was like, oh my God, is this what our relationship is going to be like when we're going to have these amazing releases?
How are we going to do anything?
How are we going to do anything else? So we do other things now, but that was a really intense start.
Yeah, and when friends would come and hang out with us, we each have friends, and a lot of my friends wanted to come and kind of taste us they'd be like, whoa, what is this? It's like this bubble that was created for us around slow and intentional and like, so just like this actually likely isn't for everybody, and it's also really rich and beautiful to have access to slowing down that much.
So we're going to get into the two main parts, the revealing and speaking, and the listening and receiving. But first, let's hear a little bit what it's like so far, whatever's coming up for you. Does that sound good, Jess?
Yeah.
And what's your name?
Yeah, Shamina.
Shamina.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that now it's gone a little, but it was like I was very moved when you talked about the process, how you took time to each other, and it was like I felt I was moved to tears, really. Like I just wanted to share.
Thank you.
So I think I encountered you both as a couple the first time in Aletheia, and maybe a circling lab, and then here. So I've seen you a few times together. And I think from the very beginning, I was grateful for your presence as a couple, precisely because, like you said, I imagine at least some people here might have judgments against monogamous couples or something, but particularly those who might I want to be a little bit careful about the words I choose, but maybe it might appear clingy, or too close too often, or needy, or anything of those things, because it seems like unless you're needed at separate places, you gravitate together. There's not, I feel obligated to like be independent, like we can be together and that's okay, we can touch and that's okay, it's not excessive, it's not unhealthy, and it's not wrong. And I really like that. And I'm just glad that you're there as an example of, is this, we don't have to maybe we don't have to get into is this right for everybody? It's just, at least it's okay. At least to me, it's like, it seems like a permission, like this is okay to have a relationship like this. And I like that.
Thank you.
I want to just speak a little to that of the clingy. Like I have this idea that we're perceived as clingy.
Mm-hmm. You do?
Yeah. I do.
I didn't know that.
And I think the other day when we were walking back from dinner, I was joking with you, but it was also serious. I was like, I'm so needy right now, and I'm desperate, and I could eat you, and I'm so needy, and allowing that to actually come through, and just be with that. Like I get desperate for a certain kind of contact, and how you are with me in that is spectacular. It's like I get to be as clingy, as needy, as desperate as I am for contact. And sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't, but it's part of me.
Can I just ask, to clarify, it sounded like you started that by saying you were joking the other day, and now
Joking and it's real.
Okay, so it's kind of dark humor or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that.
And there are other moments where it's actually really real.
Yeah.
Like later that night we were Skyping because we were separate and I was crying by how much I wanted contact.
It makes me
It's
happy,
real.
again, to like hear that you're in a relationship where you can be that way.
Me too. It makes me really happy to hear that you have that level of just adoration and patience and commitment to just love every side of each other, every aspect, whatever arises here. Sounds like you're really in acceptance of it.
Yeah, well, I think it gets into this point that we want to get into, which is the reveal. Like we have a huge high value on revealing what's happening. And if what's happening for me is that I feel extremely needy, that's what's happening. And I'm not gonna pretend it's not.
Yeah, so I want to say a little bit about that. So Jess and I are both course leaders here at Levin T3, And every course leader has their own style, a little bit different how they do it. We have a really shared value in a lot of revealing of our experience as a circler. And so I guess we're moving into the first of the two pieces, the receiving / speaking. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear more from that?
No.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Hi, Alexis.
I want to say one more thing though. I'm not always really needy. I just want to put
She doesn't get triggered every day.
Yeah. It's more just to highlight, like, that's welcome in the space. And to me, it's, I've got a huge judgment around need. It's like, blah. And so to allow that to actually be here is amazing.
What's your name?
Sonia?
Sonia, you were just talking about having the patience to be with each other in that way. Will you hold that piece for me right now so I don't forget it?
Sure.
So, in the role of course leader, one of the aspects of circling in the role of circler, one of the parts is revealing my experience, right? And we're both a stand for not forgetting that. Like, we're getting in the person's world, and a lot of people emphasize that, and we want to say that almost equally, it's about revealing our experience in the moment. And the reason that I find that so valuable goes back to this idea from integral theory that there's an evolutionary impulse that's always wanting to come through us. Who has heard that idea? Okay, cool. So the way that I experience that somatically and also sort of just in terms of a map of it is like, here's a situation with Jess and me, and every place that my fingers connect is a place where one of us is withholding our experience in the moment. We're not telling each other something. And as we tell that thing, the thing opens. And then I share impact and it opens. And then she says, well, it's actually another piece I wasn't telling you. And it opens. And it opens, it opens. And then when it opens enough, there's no more friction and there's no more gobbling up in the system. And then the thing can move through. And what that looks like is a deeper level of understanding, a rush of more embodied sense of intimacy, a big laughter and fun. So yes, patience, and patience because there's a payoff for it. It's not like patience because I'm a saint or patience because I want validation from her. It's like, it is so worth it to be with Jess. In her trigger, in her reveals, it's so worth it for me to give my scary, painful reveals because of this opening that happens reliably when we do it. And I love having experience and cognitive maps that correlate with each other and reinforce each other. So again, I'm trying to make explicit ties into circling, if you haven't noticed that as we go, like to make the top of the title of the talk be kind of accurate to what we're doing. So
I'm running an experience right now.
For you or for them?
For them.
Okay.
Well, I'm noticing a couple eyelids kind of going like this, and I guess I interpret that to mean something, and I feel a little bit nervous right now and not knowing actually what's going to be happening right now. But it's more just like, what's here? And I'm wanting more of, what I want is more of our interaction for them to see something.
Well, I like hearing what you want. That's a reliable guide for us. I like that you interrupted me and paused me.
How was that for you?
Well, in one way, mostly it's relief, because I trust your sense of what's appropriate in a group, oftentimes more than I trust my own. So if you're pausing me, I trust that. and my attention keeps going out there, so I don't feel totally able to
I don't
into
either. It's
interaction with
like
you.
we're in this mode
Yeah.
and it's different. Sort of like last night, I was like, where's all the things? And maybe that's okay that it's not as much here. It's more like an orientation. Like I think we had different ideas of what this was going to be, and I think we're working both of it.
I like being on the ride with you. Remember I told you that even if this fell flat, I want to be with you.
I really like you saying that right now. I feel a little hotter. I think that's a good sign.
Your face looks like it got redder.
My whole body.
Something about being on the ride together, even if this falls flat.
Something about it's being exposed. Like I want it and I hate it at the same time. Relaxing my belly a little. I want to pull my attention out. Maybe I want to hear from them a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we have a little over 15 minutes, and I still feel kind of Jess usually has a value more on the experiential piece, whether we give any theory, and I have the other value of trying to deliver value with theory, like somebody would say, what did you learn in that thing with Josh and Jess? And you'd be able to say, well, I learned this and this. Oh, well, that's a cool idea. I'll take that into my relationship. And I think the experiential thing is, oh, it really moved me. Or what would it be for you? What would they say if they got your experiential thing really good?
I felt this during that talk, or I was inspired, or I saw them do this thing, and that's really cool, and I want to try that. Like it's applicable, and it's less theoretical. So we have that difference.
Who here appreciates the theoretical information? Well, if you had to pick one or the other, who here likes both? Let's start with that. Okay, everybody likes both.
Can I point something out?
Yes, please.
Like I'm feeling like I'm having a total experience watching you two interact, and through your interaction, you're applying all your theories. So I feel like I'm getting both.
That was our hope.
Yeah, completely.
I'm feeling that too.
I'm feeling like I am privileged to get to see you guys interact a lot, and therefore I want some theory.
And what are you seeing in the interaction?
Certainly a slowing down, checking in, a reveal. One thing I admire about seeing you two interact in general and right now is just the consistent naming of what's going on for each of you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So as you're focusing more on each other, not us, I was like, is this really, first of all, I had a question, are they really like this, or are they like this at home when nobody else is around? And I wonder if you could actually answer that. Is it, I mean, not that you're always the same, like does that happen frequently? When you're
And what's the like this?
There seemed to be it seemed like almost a formal practice was going on. So that, yeah, that is frequent. And the other.
I would say upwards of, well, if we have an agenda, like get to the Integral Center this morning, well, even then, like if we're in the shower, we're even.
Like what's a context? What are we talking about? How long do we have to talk about it? Great, who's speaking? Go.
There's a lot of formal practice, and I would say half the time, that's my rough guess, half of the time that we're together, or actually doing something that if you saw us, you'd be like, oh, they're authentically relating.
Right.
Like we actually paraphrase each other a lot. We actually ask each other, what's happening for you right now?
We actually time our shares.
We actually say, do you want to do some 5-minute rounds? And I'll pull out my timer and she'll go 5 minutes and I'll go 5 minutes and she'll go 5 minutes.
Max, is something you're supposed to, but it's not something that works for you as a couple?
Absolutely. We teach it because we think it matters and it works, and then we live it for the same reason.
Thank you. And I just want to add one bit more, just a comment. So as you're focusing on each other, what struck me the most was I could only see Josh's eyes, but it was like totally precious to me what was going on in his eyes, something exquisite. And then I wanted to see Josh's eyes too, so you guys might get a little bit. What's that? Yeah. And so when she finds her back, I'm like, yeah, she's got to go out too. So, yeah, I like that.
How's it going with hearing from her?
I feel delighted. I felt a little shy with Jeffrey's share. And I liked it.
A little shy.
Jason.
I'm kind of curious, what happens if one of you gets like provoked or angry to the point where one person doesn't feel like using this style of communication anymore? Like, no, fuck this circling shit. Like they want to go break something or be on their own for a little while. Like, how do you negotiate that kind of space?
Can we go in?
Let's do it.
Let's go to the more of the, okay, here's the thing I wanted to say. Well, we're both going to say it, but there's can we hold that? We're going to get to that in a few minutes. Here's me being attached to my agenda.
I want to know what your agenda is.
I want us to flesh out that first piece of the revealing. We've been doing it a little bit, but I want you to lay out some more of it.
Okay, the thing I want to say about the reveal is I have spent 30 years of my life not revealing what was happening for me in my experience, and there's really good reasons for that. I thought, like Alexis was saying earlier, that she'd be kicked out of the tribe, right? Like, there's lots of really good reasons why we do not reveal our experience in business meetings and in family, and the risk. So coming here to the Integral Center and then meeting Josh, and actually the courage that it took for me to say what even part of my experience is. It's like there's layers of reveal. We have curriculum that we come up with, and I have levels of reveal. There's different flavors, and like peeling the onion back. And at first, it was really risky to reveal my experience with Josh. It's like, I'm gonna lose him. And if I say this thing, oh, I might have attraction to somebody else. Like, I can't say that. Or when you said that, I've been checked out for the last 5 minutes. I don't know what you said because I was thinking about this other thing. Like, that level of interpersonal reveal is risky and still kind of stuns me sometimes by how challenging it can be. And now he gets angry at me if I'm not revealing my experience. So it's evolved to, he's like, what, you haven't been with me for 5 seconds? And you knew that 5 seconds ago and you didn't pause me then?
So we use pause a lot. That's one of our primary tools. So initially it was such a rare thing, an unexpected thing for you to be in a relationship where you could really start revealing everything.
Yeah.
So it was like a luxury or something. Now it's a necessity.
Yeah.
I think that's the arc that we're
A
getting to.
requirement.
Because we value the connection more than the content. And so if we're not connected and she's in touch with not being connected with me, I don't care what I'm saying. If she's not able to listen to it, fuck what I'm saying. How can we get back into connection first? And that requires either me to catch it or more usually for her to connect to self enough to realize I'm not present with this, and then reveal, pause, Josh, I'm not here. And then
I probably pause him 20 to 30 times a day.
and then I will say thank you. Like every time she does that, I feel respected, I feel valued, even if she's interrupting me, because I've reoriented what my priorities are. And then I get angry. So there's a place where I get angry. If it's 5 minutes, if I've been blathering for 5 minutes and she says, I just realized I need you to pause. Or we use the scale yellow, orange, red a lot. So if Jess is, for instance, if she's really hungry, her attention isn't great. And if maybe she has a minute's worth of capacity to listen to me because she's so hungry. Normally she'll maybe have an hour on her. But if she only has a minute, then she's like, I'm getting yellow. So I'm turning from green to yellow. And if I don't listen to her and I keep going, she's like, I'm at orange. And then red means everything stops, you know. So I've learned when she's yellow, I check in, what is it that you need? She's like, I actually need to eat. Let's go do that. So it's not always relating, it's not always communication. There's biological needs, right? We have the 4 quadrants. What's the upper left sometimes? Or the upper left.
Yeah,
Whichever one it is. Sleep, food, time alone, we need all these things. So the other piece about revealing that I want to share as a man is amazing. There's a common sort of situation in relationships, not all relationships, but a lot, where the woman wants something or needs something, and she wants the man just to do it and know to do it without having to be told, right? And
Does anybody relate to this?
does anybody know? And the man is just like, well, I'll do what you want if you just tell me. And she's going, well, you're an idiot if I have to tell you. And I have to tell you, it doesn't count. Because I'm asking you to do it, I just want you to do it for me. If you don't just do it, I don't feel loved. And if I have to ask you to do it, I don't believe that you really want to do it. So somehow we have worked out a situation where, again, through the power of revealing, Jess gives me the codes. She actually tells me what she wants if she's not getting it. And I will, if I genuinely don't want to do it, I won't do it. But I will find a place, if I can, where it's genuine for me, and then we'll move forward. Even more, and check this out, guys, if she wants to hear a specific set of words, if she's thinking, he didn't say that right, or what, he's walking away without saying the thing that's going to make me feel loved.
Are you crazy?
If she's thinking, you're crazy, I will say to her, if she's upset, or somehow it will come about that I will say, is there something that you want to hear from me? That's become part of our culture. And she will actually say, yes, I want you to say. Give us an example. What did you say recently? It's just this morning, there was one, or last night.
I want you to say, I'm acknowledging that I changed the context that we were in without telling you. And it makes sense that you're in a challenged place right now, waiting for me to come back.
So does that feel true for me? Oh yeah, I can find a place where that's true for me. And I just repeat it verbatim.
But if he doesn't say it in a way that I can sense is congruent, I'll say no.
And then try again, and I'll try to find, again, can I connect to myself? Can I speak from it, not about it? We talk about that a lot, not reporting your experience. Can I embody that? And I go, yeah, I am sorry. I did change the context with you. I want to acknowledge that. And I'll say, how was that? And she's like, okay, I feel better. Now again, it's not going to work. Your codes might be different. Hers are like just hearing certain words. Your codes might be, I need you to touch me in a certain way, or whatever. But this revealing piece is so amazing. I think that's good on revealing. We have 5 minutes left.
I want to get to yours and Jason's question.
Okay. Actually, I'll take 30 seconds. Another quick story. I had a reveal. My highlight of our 1.5 years together was the highlight of my best reveal was one day I was feeling insecure. I have a very sensitive nervous system. If I'm sleeping in the same bed with someone and they move during the night, I will wake up and I can't fall back to sleep. So we don't sleep in the same bed. And she loves sleeping in the same bed. She loves falling asleep, being held. So we have seemingly opposite needs around sleep. So I was feeling really insecure, thinking, God, I might lose her if I don't I'm not able to shift this and sleep with her in the same bed. So one day I said, hey, I want to reveal something. And she loves that, so of course she drops whatever she's doing and we sit down. And I say, do you want to be with me even though we can't sleep in the same bed? And she said yes. And then the floodgates were open and I said, and do you want to be with me even though I have a big nose? And she said yes, and I said, and even though my eyes have bags under them? And she said yes, and even though I don't want to pick you up at the airport. And I just went through my list of all the things that I felt insecure about. Like, why would she want to leave me? And from the silly reasons to like some really deep reasons to, what about that I don't want to have kids? Will you stay with me even if I don't want to have kids? And so again, that's my story of revealing something and slowing down and having her respond and just being totally vulnerable. Okay. Moving on. So revealing and speaking, the other piece is listening and receiving. And the big piece from circling around that is curiosity, right? Being curious, getting to know the world, really appreciating everything that comes out from circling, welcoming everything unconditionally, as well as speaking if I have different ones. So when I show up in our relationship as a circler with that value of getting her world and receiving her, I'll tell you what that does in a minute. So number one, I don't do this thing that we call leapfrogging. There's this classic understanding of masculine communication style and feminine communication style. Masculine tends to be more, let's fix the problem, let's get a solution, let's go forward. And feminine is more about connection. Let's get you, let's hear you, reflecting. And so circling, if men didn't know it already, a lot of us men learn how to just be with the thing and not move forward to try to fix it. So in our relationship, we call that not leapfrogging. So if Jess says, I'm so mad that you changed the plan without checking with me, I don't go into explaining or defending. Well, I only did that because Decker told me to, or something. I say, oh, you are mad that I changed that on you. And then I'll be with her about that. So there's one example. We're so steeped in and so value circling, we rarely get to the point where we throw the practice out. We can stay in the fire with the practice. And we have practiced over and over and over again. So when she's coming at me with accusation, with attack, with blame.
Which isn't circling. Like in partnership, it's all great to talk NVC, right? And in partnership, like I'm not going to talk NVC. I'm a 1 on the Enneagram too, so I'm going to be super critical of him and make him the problem.
So hopefully, so trigger's great, trigger's fine. Sometimes both people are triggering. We're not against conflict and anger and yelling if that's what happens. And how cool it is if one person can be spacious when another person is triggered. So for me as the listener, the resource there is staying curious about her experience. Eventually there's also that experience that I named already where I can give her the words that she wanted. But a little bit more, we're almost at time. But in my role as the receiver and the listener, my job is to paraphrase, as we do in circling. And my job is to not take her personally in the sense of getting triggered or defensive when I feel criticized, blamed, or attacked. And the big theoretical piece I want to leave you with is that it's like my gem that I bring into the world is, one of them is that I don't get defensive. I almost never get defensive. And people are like, how do you do that? And Jess is, how do you do that? How do you do that with me? And number one, I'm really have the filter that somebody's expression is always, if there's anger or upset or hurt, it's always because there's a need that they're not getting. And I'm so wanting to understand her world about what that need is. And I really just stake my pole, my flag in the ground, that if she's got a lot of feelings, I want to understand what. And I pull on my resource as circler, and I get curious. And the other piece, so I reframe what might be interpreted as an attack as just an expression of needs. That is kind of the MBC angle on it. The other piece that I've done, because it's not all relational work, I believe in a lot of solo work. I believe in meditation very strongly. I believe in solitude very strongly. I believe in therapy, I'm a big proponent of therapy. So what all of that helps me do is that to the extent that I've accepted myself, there's very little for her to hook onto. Right? If she calls me, if she says I'm stupid, I'm a dummy, and I haven't accepted any place where I'm confused about my intelligence, or maybe I'm not the smartest person, if I haven't accepted that about myself, that's going to hook me and I'm going to get defensive. Right? If she says something about me that I'm completely clear isn't true, if she calls me a purple hippopotamus, I'm not going to get defensive because I'm not a purple hippopotamus. If she calls me an asshole, either I'm clear I'm not an asshole, or I've accepted the places that I am an asshole. Either way, I can just be there with it and not get defensive. And what does that allow? Well, just like in the circle, if I keep welcoming her expression of her feelings without defending or explaining or trying to convince her that she's wrong in any way, it's allowed to sequence. It comes out, and then what's underneath it gets more revealed. So I get to know her more, she gets to feel more safe with me. And the other piece is that because I trust her and I trust our process, I know that eventually I will get my turn to be heard, because she values that as well. So if I keep hearing her and receiving her, eventually her experience is sequenced through. And I know that for sure when she gets curious about me. So what I would say to people in general, and especially men, in terms of holding space for your woman, like, don't explain or defend or say anything until she's actually curious to hear it.
Because that indicates what has happened.
It indicates that she's actually available to hear anything from me, and to hear it not as a rebuttal or an explanation or a minimization of her experience, but more about my world. She's ready to hear it and circle me if I need that.
And I want to add, there are times where what's needed is space. Like, I believe that we have these subconscious structures that actually, it's like, create conflict to actually have more space. And we've had lots of opportunities to practice, especially more towards the earlier part of a relationship, of like a high level of conflict and what was called was space. What was called rosette was for space. And
Or getting with the friends. Like,
Right.
we don't want to be an isolated bubble, we want to include our friends. So yes, support from friends, yeah, time alone. And I would say 80% of the time or more, we're right there working it with each other, with the tools, circling. Primarily those tools, other tools as well, but primarily circling.
taking turns being big and spacious. It's like we can't both be here and actually have it go well.
So I would love it if we had a couple more hours. I would love to take lots of specific Q&A. I'm sorry, Jason, if I didn't get directly to your thing. And we are at time for